Good morning, fathers of daughters. This is Ephraim B. Martin. I am 58 years of age, and I am a girl dad of four adult daughters. Welcome to the beautiful state of Colorado. This is another live stream, fathers. Hope you had a good week, fathers. Hope you're all doing well. Hope your daughters are all doing well. Hope your children are all doing well. Welcome, fathers. Welcome. Today, fathers, what I want to discuss is a topic. It's regarding our daughters. It's called validating our daughters' puberty. And the reason I want to talk about our daughters' puberty is because a lot of fathers, most fathers, as their daughters get older, they are going to age, and we're going to have those discussions with them, fathers. So what I want to encourage fathers to do, specifically new fathers, when your daughters are born and they're little and they're all under 5 years old, that's a totally different stage of development for our little girls. But at some point, as their fathers, we are going to need to have that discussion with them regarding their bodies and regarding puberty. And let me explain why, fathers. I started having the discussion with my daughters regarding their bodies, what was appropriate, what wasn't appropriate with them when they were all 5 years of age. And the reason I started having that discussion with my daughters is because I'm a former state of Colorado juvenile probation officer, and I worked in the criminal justice system for 20 years, and then I worked in K-12 education for 10 years. I'm a former teacher and dean of students as well. So working in the criminal justice system as a probation officer, state juvenile probation officer, I saw a lot of stuff. I dealt with a lot of stuff, a lot of bad things, some good things, but a lot of bad things I seen happen to children, particularly little girls. So for me, being a younger adult, I was in my 30s. Actually, I was younger. I was in my late 20s when I became a state juvenile probation officer. And just getting acclimated into the role of a probation officer and having to deal with Department of Human Services, aka Social Services, aka Child Protection Services. I was meeting young girls that were placed in the juvenile justice system and not necessarily having their fathers in their life and having their mothers in their lives. A lot of times, these little girls were being subject to a lot of madness, a lot of craziness, things that were happening to them in their families. So for me, seeing that a lot, dealing with it a lot, and just seeing what these little girls were going through, it wasn't an option for me not to start talking with my daughters early, as about their bodies and, like I said, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. I felt totally comfortable doing it, and I knew it was necessary because the last thing I needed was to have another man come into their life and take that role as their father. That was not an option for me. I'm their father. I'm going to be the one that is going to explain to them, and I'm going to be the one that's going to learn with them as well. Okay? So at 5 years of age, your fathers, I started speaking with my baby girls about their bodies, and started doing a ton of research on what to expect. Now, I was fortunate enough when I was a probation officer, I'd worked with a woman that had 8 daughters, and she raised these 8 girls, not by herself, with her husband. And she pulled me in her office one day and she said, Ephraim, she says, I want to talk to you. You know, you got a couple baby girls. And she said, you know, come over to my office when you get an opportunity. I just want to talk to you. And this is in my book as well. So I went into this woman's office and she said, you know what, I've been watching you. She said, you're going to be all right when it comes to your daughter. She said, can I give you some advice? And I said, yes, ma'am, absolutely. You sure can. Please. And she said, the simplest thing to me, she said, Ephraim, as long as you change with your daughters, you will not have a single issue. And then she said, you can leave. You know, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, what just happened? You know, this woman calls me into her office. She's raised 8 girls. She's been successful with her 8 daughters. They're all amazing women. She was an older woman. At that time, she was in her 60s. All of her daughters were adults. And she said the simplest thing to me, right? So that resonated with me. It resonated in my soul. So what I ended up processing from that was she was explaining to me, as long as I change with my daughters, as long as I, you know, change with them during their stages of development, as their father, I'm going to be fine. You know, I have to listen to them. And part of that changing with them is just listening and you know, changing with them in the different stages. So I didn't have that quite set, but that's what I walked away with after I resonated with that and processed that. So that was some of the best information I ever got as a father. I got it from a mother, you know, and she knew at that time I needed to hear that information. So she shared it with me. So it made perfect sense as I was rearing my daughters, right? Now, at 5 years of age, you know, I was still bathing my daughters. You know, I was doing their hair and, you know, talking to my daughters on a daily basis about their bodies. And, you know, as they were going to get older as little girls, their bodies would be changing. So it was real small talk. But I was doing a lot of research because the research that was available when my girls were little, it was good research. It wasn't as good as it is today, but it was good research. I also have in the description a lot of studies. I have a lot of information in the description. So always feel free to do your own research and you know, do your own thing as far as researching, because that's the only way you're going to learn and get better fathers. Okay. So I provided that in the description. Now, with that being said, like I said, I started talking with my daughters when they were 5. And, you know, as they started getting older, little girls can have their first menstrual cycle as early as 8 years of age, fathers. Now, think about that. From 5 years of age, when I started talking to my daughters, to 8 years of age, it's called menarche. That's the first time that a little girl can have her menstrual cycle. Menarche, right? As early as 8 years of age. Now think about that, dads. That's frightening. You know, here you are, you have a little girl, you know, 8 years of age. She starts her menstrual cycle. What are you going to do? Most dads are going to freak out because most dads have not done any research on menarche. I cannot mess that word up. Menarche. Most fathers have not done any research on menarche, so they don't understand what their little girls are going to start going through, right? Their mothers know it because they have a mother. Their mother's been through it, right? But the reason it's important for fathers to know menarche is we have to make sure, right, that we're able, from the male perspective, to be available for our daughters when their bodies are changing through puberty, right? Menarche it can be traumatizing to a lot of young girls because they're little girls. They don't know what's going on. Their bodies are changing, right? So let's just say they don't have a mother in their life and it's just you. You're a single father. How are you going to deal with that, dads? Where are you going to go for help? Where are you going to go for resources? Because it's going to happen, right? So all I'm saying, fathers, is we have to make sure that we know as much as we possibly can about these changes in our daughters' bodies, because it's going to happen, right? And it's better for us to be a part of the changes, like the probation officer gave me the information and gave me the best advice of my life, to change with them. Because if we change with our daughters, it's going to be easier transition for them. I can promise you, dads, I did that with each one of my daughters. Was not an issue, right? But 8 years of age, 9 years of age, 10, 11, 12, 13, puberty, it's coming, dads. It is coming. And when it does come, I am telling you, I've already said this in a couple of videos, be prepared to be isolated by your daughters, because they're going to do it, right? There's going to be times, because of their emotions being high and emotions being low, they ain't going to even want to deal with their dads. They don't even want us in their physical space, right? Here we are, used to holding their hands, walking with them, hugging them, kissing them, and they don't want to be touched. That's going to crush a lot of fathers, I can promise you. You know, my little girls were good about it. I can tell you, my little girls, they went through it, but I think because of my professional experience of being a probation officer and working in the criminal justice system and then working in K-12 education, I have a totally different take on it. And it didn't catch me off guard, and it wasn't as much as a surprise for me as it is going to be for most dads. Dads, I encourage you to make sure that you are part of their entire puberty, right? Don't fall back and don't fall off, because our little girls are going to need us when they're going through puberty, right? Even when they isolate us, even when they want nothing to do with us, and even though, you know, they want their moms to do everything for them during that stage, be consistent, dads, right? Because being an advocate for our daughters is going to mean more to them as they get older. It's funny, the discussions that I have with my adult daughters today. And, you know, we're talking about when they were little girls. I get to enjoy so much with my adult daughters now because they're adult grown women, you know, and they just validate everything that I did and the work that I put in for them when they were little girls. You know, they're so appreciative today as adult women. They're like, Dad, you were there and you talked to us about our bodies, and, you know, there's not a subject you shied away from. You helped us through those, you know, through those stages, and we're better because of it. And we just want to, you know, my daughters thanked me for it. And if I had to do it all over again, even in today's world, because my daughters were raised in a different world, you know, their experiences as little girls is a lot different than a lot of these little girls and what they're going through today. But they're just so grateful and they're so thankful. And, you know, I learned so much as their father by jumping in, reading books, doing research. And, you know, I had case studies in front of me. I worked in the criminal justice system. I worked in K-12 education. So I had little girls every day that I was dealing with that were going through all kinds of issues. Everything you can imagine. A lot of these little girls wouldn't even talk to their parents about what was going on with them, which was sad for me, you know? And I encourage these little girls, but a lot of them just didn't have a good relationship with their parents when they were little girls. Sad. Very, very sad and very, very unfortunate. So fathers, we have an opportunity. I'm telling you, we have an opportunity to make such an incredible impact on our daughters' lives as little girls before the age of 10 by transitioning with them. It's easy, Dad. It's nothing hard, right? Every one of my videos that I'm live streaming and every one of my videos that I'm making and sharing with the world, speaking about girl dads, fathers of daughters. I have research. I have studies. I have solutions, Dad. That's what I'm all about. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I work with all fathers, regardless of your ethnic background and regardless of your culture. We have a commonality. We have the tools, Dad. We have the tools. We just got to jump in and do it. We can't be scared. We cannot be scared, fathers, right? We cannot ignore their puberty. Because if we ignore their puberty, they're going to make us pay. Our daughters are going to make us pay. I can promise you. I've seen it. You know, I remember when I was a dean of students, I would have a lot of fathers calling me saying, Mr. Martin, my daughters are just mean as hell. You know, how do I deal with it? How do I handle it? You know, and I would explain to them, hey, you got to jump in. It's never too late. You know, when you got a middle school daughter or you got a high school daughter and they want to isolate you, you got to jump in. Right? Yes, you got to give them their space, but you have to transition with them. Because if you do not transition with your daughters, it's not going to work out good for you. They're going to align with their moms. And if they align with their mothers, double team, triple team, it's coming. Right? So we don't have all the answers, Dad. But advocacy is going to be key to this. I can promise you. Advocacy, listening, and just going through the transition with them, fathers. Like I said, my older daughters today are just so appreciative on so many levels of everything that I was able to go through with them. And it was just, for me, it was such a learning experience because I didn't fear anything. I didn't, you know, the books that I read, there's no books that could be written on how to be a parent. You just got to figure it out as you go along. You know, a lot of these psychologists and psychiatrists, they don't have children. You know, but they're commenting because they've worked with a lot of kids. Working with children and raising your own, two different things. Two different things, you know. And I mean, it's cool. Books are cool. And yes, you need to have the research and you need to have the data. But when you're doing it yourself, you're figuring out things that these books can never teach you. That's just what it is, dads. We have the tools, right? We can't be scared, though. And I encourage you, specifically new fathers, young fathers. You know, when you're in your 20s and you're in your 30s, it's scary. I know, I've been there. Okay? I know how difficult it can be. I know how nervous you are. I know how easy you can be discouraged. But I want to encourage you, fathers. I really, really want to encourage you, fathers. Right? Because there's no books. My books, Daddy's Girls, what I'm talking about in my book is helping fathers become familiar with their daughters, helping fathers build that gap with their daughters. That's what I talk about in my book. I don't go over any data or any statistics because I wanted to make it simplistic for fathers to be able to follow and to be able to incorporate and say, you know what? This man knows what he's talking about. He's raised 4 adult daughters. He's been there. He's done it. He can help us. So that's what it's all about, fathers. But we have to jump in, right? And like I said, I can't tell you when to start talking to your children. I can't tell you when to start talking to your daughters. But for me, 5 years of age made sense because of what I was dealing with and seeing in the criminal justice system with these little girls. Not my daughters. Criminal justice system is not an option for my daughters. No, not going to happen. Okay? So that was my experience, right? Okay, fathers, we have opportunities to break cycles. We have opportunities to do things different. So I want to encourage you to continue to be better and do what we do as dads. Hang in there. Don't get discouraged. And, let's do what we do as fathers, okay? This is another live stream. I'm done. Have a blessed week. Keep your heads up and stay focused. Peace.